Elena Whitmore sat by the window of her small bedroom, looking at the gray morning sky. In 3 days, she would leave her childhood home forever. In 3 days, she would marry a man she had never met. His name was Alistair Graves, the Duke of Ravenswood, and everyone in town spoke about him in hushed voices. Some said he was cold and distant. Others said he never smiled. Nobody seemed to know him well, yet everyone had an opinion about him. Elena did not care about his reputation. She cared about one thing only: saving her family. Her father had made many bad decisions with money, and now the family owed a large debt to powerful men in the city. If the debt was not paid soon, they would lose their home, and her younger sister, Margaret, would have no future at all. When the offer came from the Duke's family, asking for Elena's hand in marriage in exchange for clearing the debt, her father did not hesitate. He said yes, before Elena even had the chance to speak. Elena understood why her father agreed. She was not angry with him. But that night, alone in her room, she allowed herself to feel everything she had been hiding. She took out a piece of paper and a pen, and she began to write a letter. It was not a letter she planned to send. It was a letter to herself, a way to release the feelings she could not say out loud to anyone. In the letter, she wrote about her fear of marrying a stranger. She wrote about the home she was leaving behind, the fields she had walked since she was a child, and the warm kitchen where her mother used to bake bread before she passed away. And she wrote about Thomas. Thomas was the son of the stable hand who worked for a neighboring family. Elena had known him since they were children. Over the years, what began as simple friendship slowly grew into something deeper. They would meet near the old oak tree by the river, where they talked for hours about everything and nothing. Thomas made her laugh in a way no one else could. He listened when she spoke, really listened, as if her words mattered more than anything else in the world. But Thomas had no title, no land, and no fortune. When Elena's father learned of their closeness, he forbade her from seeing him again. He said a stable-hand's son was not a suitable match for his daughter, no matter how kind or honest Thomas was. Elena obeyed, as she always did, but her heart never fully let go. In her letter, she confessed all of this. She wrote that she still thought of Thomas, that she missed him, and that she feared spending the rest of her life pretending to feel nothing while married to a man she had never even seen. She wrote that she was marrying the Duke not for herself, but for Margaret, so her sister would never have to face the same fate she now faced. When she finished writing, she folded the letter carefully and placed it inside the lining of her travel case, planning to burn it once she settled into her new home. She told herself it would be safer that way. No one needed to know the truth hidden inside those pages. 3 days later, Elena arrived at Ravenswood Estate. The carriage rolled through tall iron gates, and she saw the great stone house rising in front of her, surrounded by gardens that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was beautiful, but it also felt cold, just like the rumors about its owner. Servants greeted her at the entrance and led her inside. She caught only a brief glimpse of the Duke from a distance that first day. He stood near the staircase, dressed in dark clothing, his expression unreadable. He did not approach her, and she did not approach him. Their eyes met for only a moment before he turned and walked away. Elena felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. She had imagined many versions of her future husband, but the real man in front of her felt like a complete mystery. That evening, while unpacking her belongings, a young housemaid named Sarah was sent to help organize Elena's trunk. As Sarah lifted out a stack of dresses, something slipped from the lining and fell to the floor. It was the letter. Sarah picked it up, curious, but before she could read more than a few words, she panicked. She did not want to be accused of prying into her new mistress's private thoughts. Fearing punishment, She made a decision that would change everything. Instead of returning the letter quietly to Elena, she gave it directly to the Duke, believing it was safer to let him decide what to do with it. Alistair sat alone in his study that night, the letter resting on his desk. He almost set it aside without reading it, telling himself it was not his business. But curiosity, and perhaps something deeper, made him open it. As he read, his expression slowly changed. He read about Elena's fear, her grief, her love for Thomas, and her quiet determination to protect her sister, no matter the personal cost. By the time he finished, he understood Elena Whitmore in a way no introduction or formal meeting could have given him. He did not confront her right away. Instead, he began to watch her more closely over the following days. He noticed the way she greeted the servants with kindness, even though she had no obligation to do so. He noticed how she asked thoughtful questions about the estate, the gardens, and the history of the house. Questions that showed genuine curiosity rather than polite small talk. He began inviting her to walk with him in the gardens, where he asked for her opinion on matters most men would never think to ask a woman about, such as how to better support the tenant farmers, or which charities the estate should support in the coming year. Elena found herself surprised by these conversations. The cold, distant man from the rumors did not match the person she was slowly getting to know. He listened carefully when she spoke. He respected her opinions, even when they differed from his own. Slowly, without either of them fully realizing it, a quiet trust began to grow between them. 2 days before the wedding, Elena noticed her trunk looked slightly disturbed. She searched through her belongings and felt her stomach drop when she realized the letter was missing. She searched every corner of her room, hoping she had simply misplaced it. But deep down, she already feared the truth. Later that day, a servant informed her that the Duke wished to see her in his study. Elena's heart pounded as she walked through the long hallway. She imagined the worst outcomes: public embarrassment, the wedding canceled, her family's debt left unpaid, and Margaret's future destroyed because of her own carelessness. When she entered the study, she saw the letter resting on his desk. She froze in the doorway, unable to speak. "I read it," Alistair said quietly, his voice calm but serious. "I am sorry. It was not my intention to invade your privacy, but once I began reading, I could not stop." Elena's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "Then you know everything," she whispered. "You know I do not love you. You know there is someone else." "I know," he said simply. He stood and walked toward the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "And I want you to know something as well. I did not choose this marriage out of love either. My family has its own reasons for arranging this match, reasons that have little to do with affection and everything to do with business and family expectations. Neither of us chose this path freely." Elena stared at him, unsure how to respond. She had expected anger, perhaps even cruelty. Instead, she heard honesty. "I will not force you into a marriage built on a lie," Alistair continued. "If you wish to go to this man, Thomas, I will not stand in your way. I can still help your family without requiring marriage in return. The debt can be settled quietly, without conditions. You are free to make your own choice." For a long moment, Elena said nothing. She had imagined this moment for weeks, the moment someone might offer her a way out. Yet now that the choice was actually in front of her, she felt strangely uncertain. She thought of Thomas, of his warm smile and gentle voice, but she also thought of the past few days at Ravenswood. She thought of the patience Alistair had shown her, the respect in his questions, the honesty in his confession just moments ago. She realized that the man she feared before arriving here was nothing like the man standing in front of her now. "I do not know if I love you," she said slowly, choosing her words with care. But I know what you have shown me these past few days is not nothing. You have been honest with me, even when it would have been easier to stay silent. You have treated me with more respect than anyone in my life, including my own father." Alistair turned to face her, waiting for her to continue. "I think," Elena said, "that I would rather discover the truth of my own feelings as your wife, with honesty between us, than spend my life wondering what might have been with someone I left behind years ago. Thomas is part of my past. I care for him, and I always will in some small way. But the girl who wrote that letter was frightened and uncertain. I am not entirely that same girl anymore." A faint smile crossed Alistair's face, the first genuine smile Elena had seen from him since her arrival. "Then we will marry," he said, not as strangers fulfilling a cold arrangement, but as two people who have already seen each other's truth before exchanging a single vow. The wedding took place 2 days later, small and quiet, nothing like the grand spectacle their families had originally planned. Only close family members and a few trusted servants attended. Elena wore a simple dress, and Alistair stood beside her, with none of the coldness people once whispered about him. When he looked at her during the ceremony, his eyes held warmth that surprised even those who had known him for years. After the ceremony, as guests slowly left and the house grew quiet again, Alistair found Elena alone in the garden, sitting near the old fountain. He approached her and handed her something wrapped in plain paper. She unwrapped it slowly and found the original letter inside, the one Sarah had accidentally given him weeks before. Along with it was a blank sheet of paper and a simple pen. "You are free to write a new letter," he said gently, "whenever you are ready to say what you truly feel now." Elena looked up at him, touched by the simple gesture. She did not write anything that evening, choosing instead to sit quietly beside her new husband as the sun set behind the gardens. But a few weeks later, after settling fully into her new life at Ravenswood, she finally picked up the pen again. This time, the letter was not hidden in the lining of a travel case, written in fear and uncertainty. This time, it was addressed directly to Alistair, placed openly on his desk for him to find. In it, she wrote about gratitude, about respect, and about a quiet kind of happiness she had not expected to find in an arranged marriage. She wrote about watching him work patiently with the tenant farmers, about his kindness toward the servants, and about the comfort she now felt simply being near him. When Alistair found the letter that evening, he read it slowly, then folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer in his desk, right beside the first letter Elena had never meant for him to see. Their marriage, which began as a transaction between two families, slowly grew into something neither of them had expected. It was not the dramatic, sweeping love often described in old stories, but something steadier and perhaps more meaningful. A partnership built on honesty, patience, and the simple choice to be truthful with one another, even when truth felt frightening. Margaret often visited Ravenswood in the months that followed, and she noticed the change in her sister immediately. Elena laughed more easily. She walked with confidence through the halls of her new home. She no longer carried the heavy worry that had weighed on her before the wedding. Years later, when Margaret faced her own marriage proposal, Elena gave her advice that came from her own experience. She told her sister that love did not always begin the way stories described it. Sometimes it began quietly, built slowly through small moments of honesty and respect, rather than sudden passion. She told Margaret that the most important promises were not the ones made out of fear or duty, but the ones made once two people truly understood each other. Elena often thought back to that first letter, the one she had written in fear the night before leaving her childhood home. She no longer felt embarrassed by it. Instead, she felt grateful. If Sarah had not accidentally given that letter to Alistair, Perhaps their marriage would have remained cold and distant, two strangers living under the same roof, without ever truly knowing one another. Instead, that single moment of honesty, though unintended, became the foundation of a marriage built on truth rather than pretense. What began as an arrangement to settle a family debt became something far more valuable, a partnership rooted in genuine understanding, patience, and quiet, lasting affection. And every year, on the anniversary of their wedding, Alistair would take out both letters from his desk drawer, the frightened confession of a young woman facing an uncertain future, and the grateful words of the woman she had become, and he would read them side by side, grateful that fate had given them a chance to know each other's truth before it was too late.